If you're planning a trip to India, but you're feeling a little overwhelmed by the thought of all the incredible places you'd like to visit in this massive country, well, I've got you covered in this video with my top 10 favorite destinations to visit in India. Hey guys, it's Allie, and on this channel, I help overpacking, luxury-loving, independent women turn their bucket list travel dreams into reality. With the help of my mom and luxury travel advisor, Linda, who's gonna be popping in with her recommendations in just a bit. Now, today's episode is gonna be a really special one because I'm sharing my favorite places to visit in India. My goal with my brand new Abroad at Home bucket list series is to really get you inspired and also give you the info that you need to start dreaming of and planning for your next great escape once it is safe to do so. So if you haven't already, make sure that you're subscribed and you introduce yourself in the comments below. And if you missed last week's episode, I covered everything you need to know before you visit India. So be sure to check that out. I'm gonna link it up here somewhere. Oh, and I quickly want to just mention that on both of our trips to India, my mom and I worked with one of Scorby Travel's favorite local tour operators who completely customized our trip and arranged our local guides, photographers, accommodations, transportation, all the things. So if you're interested in building your own custom trip to India when it is safe to do so, make sure you reach out to Scorby Travel and Cruise and they can help arrange everything for you. And I'm dropping their website in the description of this video. My first few recommendations will be within the state of Rajasthan, which is one of the most visited states in India and located in the northwest corner of the country bordering Pakistan. Now, the reason this state is so popular is because Rajasthan spotlights India's most colorful, exotic, and lavish elements that tourists like you and I are really keen to experience. I mean, it's home to all the quintessential things that you think of when you think of India. Opulent palaces, centuries-old forts, camels, deserts, and elephants, oh my! First up, I'm taking you to JODHPUR, affectionately referred to as the Blue City. And we'll get to that in a second. But JODHPUR is the second largest city in Rajasthan and is one of the destinations that I recommend visiting if you want to feel as if you've stepped back in time. To me, JODHPUR feels like a refreshing lake of indigo water smack dab in the middle of a scorching desert. I feel like it's one of the most underrated cities in India and by far one of my favorites. So you'll hear a few different explanations for why the old city is painted various shades of blue, but our guide told us that these buildings were painted blue to signify that Brahmins lived here, which is the highest caste in India. Not only that, the blue color is also said to keep temperatures down and also keep the mosquitoes away. While you're here, you absolutely must wander through the old city, which is also the blue part of the city. You'll find it's really peaceful and honestly a photographer's dreamland because it seems like there's something photo worthy around every single corner. Especially if you wander through the market near the clock tower. I could have spent, honestly, all day just observing as locals went about their daily shopping routines, moving from stall to stall and shopping for different spices and ingredients. I mean, the grocery shopping situation in India is fascinating. Bear with me as I try to properly pronounce all of these names. Okay, so no visit to JODHPUR is complete without exploring the Mehrangarh Fort, one of the largest and most well-preserved forts in India. And inside you can explore the palace, the museum, and look down upon the Blue City. Now, once you're finished exploring, head to Jaswant Thada, which is this impeccable marble cenotaph, which is basically like a commemorative tomb. It sounds morbid, but I found these to be some of the most beautiful structures in India. You're definitely going to want to stay a few days in JODHPUR. Consider staying at Raz, which is a boutique hotel that looks directly out on the fort and was built around an 18th century Haveli. Or if you're feeling a little like go big or go home, then you gotta look into Umaid Bhawan Palace, which is actually where Joe and Priyanka Chopra got married, and guys, this palace is bonkers. Pro tip though, if you're not staying at the hotel, non-guests can have a meal and stroll around the gardens, which is exactly what Linda and I did. Moving on to Jaipur, which is referred to as the Pink City because of the rosy hue of its buildings. You're gonna start to see a theme here with these nicknames, okay? Jaipur is the capital of Rajasthan, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and 1/3 of the Golden Triangle, which for anyone unfamiliar, the Golden Triangle is sort of like the classic tourist circuit in India and also includes Delhi and Agra. Jaipur is the quintessential mix of cosmopolitan and classic. I mean, from the iconic Wind Palace and towering Amber Fort to the colorful Patrika Gate and the ancient step wells. It's honestly clear why this city is favored among the touristic crowd. So while you're visiting, a trip to Jaipur's city palace is a must. Built in the 18th century, this popular tourist site is actually made up of multiple complexes. And while you're walking around, be sure to keep your eyes peeled for these incredible 4 doorways that actually depict the seasons and are dedicated to Hindu gods. Be sure to experience a classic Rajasthani thali, which basically is one big platter filled with an assortment of veggies, side dishes, curries, chutneys, bread, and rice, and oh, gosh, you just kind of like get to mix and combine all the flavors. It is so yummy. We had our thali at Castle Kannada, which is just a short drive outside of Jaipur, and if anyone has seen the Best Exotic Marigold Hotel, this is where they shot the Viceroy Club scenes. Also, if you haven't seen that movie, it is so good, watch it right now. Lastly, and in my opinion, most importantly, you have to give yourself at least a day or two to drive about an hour out to Samod Palace. This 475-year-old palace has been transformed into the most exquisite and enchanting heritage hotel that I have ever stayed at. I mean, from the epic entrance and intricate hand-painted murals to the lavish rooms and sprawling courtyards, there is absolutely nothing that compares to this hotel. It's a destination in its own right, and honestly a nice reprieve from the hustle and bustle of the big city. Moving right along to the destination you will most likely arrive in when you visit India, which is Delhi. Now, Delhi is its own national capital territory, and it's a city that perfectly blends old with new. And it's also home to the capital of India, New Delhi. Delhi has been continuously inhabited since the 6th century BCE. And while it continues to grow, this city is really rooted in the past, with monuments and temples that are centuries old. Honestly, there's so much to do here that it's kind of a lot to list off, but at the top of your list should be a visit to 3 of the World Heritage Sites: the Red Fort, Humayun's Tomb, and Qutub Minar. Also, it's really fun to take a rickshaw through Chandni Chowk, which is a market that's been around for 3 centuries. If you want even more recs on what to do in Delhi, I actually have a destination guide that I will link in the description of this video. Oh, and before we move on, I have to say that there is no better hotel to stay at than the Oberoi New Delhi. You're gonna hear me recommend this hotel group often, but what I love so much about Oberoi Properties is the over-the-top attentiveness of the staff and really the tranquility of the experience. Delhi can be quite overwhelming for any traveler, and having the Oberoi to come back to is honestly such a treat. Next destination, Agra, which was once the capital city of India and is, of course, home to the Taj Mahal. Agra is located in the Indian state of Uttar Pradesh, which is just about a 3-hour drive from Delhi, depending on traffic. Of course, the main draw for a visit to Agra is the Taj Mahal. I'm talking more than 7 million visitors each year. Yeah, so let's just dive right in. India's most iconic mausoleum and one of the 7 wonders of the world is as heart-stoppingly beautiful as you might imagine. It's one of those things that you honestly can't believe you're seeing when you're standing there looking at it. Built by Shah Jahan for his 3rd wife, who died while giving birth to their 14th child. That's a lot of kids. It took 22 years to build and cost an estimated 32 million Indian rupees, which was the equivalent of more than $1 billion at the time. The entire experience of seeing the Taj can be pretty overwhelming, so I recommend giving yourself a few hours to really take it all in and not feel rushed. Also, be sure to check out the Agra Fort, Akbar's Tomb and Shiro's Hangout, which is this incredible cafe entirely staffed by women who are survivors of horrific acid attacks. The entire concept of the cafe is to really empower these women to show their faces in public and just raise awareness of the issue. Now, sadly, I have not personally been, but Linda has, and she says it was one of the most meaningful experiences she's had in India. For anyone visiting Agra, I always recommend staying the night, and there is simply no better place to stay than the Oberoi Amar Villas, a 5-star hotel that offers unobstructed views of the Taj Mahal from every single room. And not only that, the entire property is inspired by the Mughal palace designs and has some of the most jaw-dropping pools with fountains and pavilions, and oh, it's just breathtaking. Now, I'm gonna turn things over to Linda, my luxury travel advisor slash travel buddy slash mom, to tell you 3 of her favorite destinations in India.
I'm going to sidestep a bit and not talk about a specific destination for this segment, but wildlife safaris in India. The vast array it has to offer. Don't even get me going on birding and you'll never shut me up. I wouldn't say that everyone equates India with safari in the way that they do with Africa. Yet there's truly so much to see when it comes to exotic wildlife. I'm going to focus on the Bengal tiger. Does anyone have a guess on the number of tigers that remain in our world today? That number is less than 4,000, and sadly the number of tigers in captivity in the United States is almost twice that number. But the good news is that 80% of the wild tigers in the world reside in India, and their numbers are steadily increasing. India's National Tiger Conservation Authority, Project Tiger, has been solely responsible for increasing that population by 30% since 2010. There are 50 tiger reserves located throughout India, but the main concentrations are within 5 states. And I want to focus on 2 that I visited. But before I begin, it's important to understand that no matter where you are observing wildlife, there's always going to be the element of unpredictability or chance that you should have in the back of your mind. My absolute favorite place to observe tigers in India is TADOBA National Park, which is located in the state of Maharashtra. TADOBA is about a 90-minute flight from Mumbai to Nagpur, and then it's about a 3-hour drive to TADOBA. If your goal is to see as many tigers in the wild as possible, this is where you need to go. TADOBA is where you'll see everything. Males, females, tiger cubs, sloth bears, gores, the list goes on. You'll typically do a morning and afternoon game drive, and that means spending 2 to 3 hours in a safari vehicle with a guide whose number one goal is to help you see as many tigers as possible. And if you're lucky, help you spot TADOBA's elusive black leopard. I recommend giving yourself at least 3 days at any tiger reserve. The one I personally loved in TADOBA is Bamboo Forest Safari Lodge. Another thing to be said is TADOBA is one of the most successful examples of tiger conservation efforts taking place between the reserve and the local community that surrounds the reserve. They're working together to carefully protect wildlife and thereby increase tourism in a region that greatly benefits from that tourism revenue. More tigers means more money. I'm going to end up by saying that when I asked our naturalist, Akshay, how many visitors did not see tigers during their stay, he held up 2 fingers on his hand. That is where I want to be. Now, the other tiger reserve I visited was Ranthambore. Located in Rajasthan, this reserve tends to be one of the most popular places tourists visit to see tigers, due to its proximity to Agra and Jaipur. My experience here was such an excellent one. I was able to observe the second most famous tiger in the world named Lightning. Other tiger seekers, however, might not be as lucky. And that's really due to 3 factors. 1 is the number of tigers residing in Ranthambore is less than half of what it is in TADOBA. 2, there are 3 times the number of tourists here because of Ranthambore's proximity to Jaipur and Agra, which means the tigers are less inclined to come out and say hi. And 3, the way this reserve is set up is that their limitation on the sectors your safari vehicle can visit is somewhat of a lottery system, deciding the areas you will be going to on that given day. All this to say, I had 3 full hours of observing lightning, watching her hunt, watching her rest, watching her pee, watching her bathe in the stream. It was the most National Geographic worthy, picture-perfect moment anyone could have had with any tiger. And I feel fortunate to have had that experience once in my lifetime. No matter where you're going to see tigers, I caution you to properly vet your reserve, or to use a travel advisor like Scorby Travel and Cruise to assure the best possible experience. Kerala is my next recommendation in India. Located in the south of India, in what is known as India's Malabar coast, Kerala is known for its coconut palm fringed beaches and its relaxing backwater canals. These backwater canals have Kerala labeled as the Venice of India. Kerala is a world away from the frenzy in the north of India. It's really quite westernized, but don't let that feature deter you from the stunning destination. Beneath that westernized surface lies an ancient world of shamanistic beliefs that are celebrated each year in dramatic and colorful festivals that bring even the smallest of villages here to life. Kerala's Western Ghat Mountains are home to tea, coffee, rubber, spice plantations, each worthy of exploration. Kochi, Kerala's largest city, was once a part of the ancient spice route. Caravans of horses and camels left laden with spices, cardamom, pepper, cinnamon, to provide these essential goods to China and to the Middle East. Imagine a time that pepper was as valuable as gold. Now, seeing Kerala's beautiful spice plantations is reason enough to travel here. If you have never seen a terraced tea field, it is truly a beautiful work of art visible within nature. One of the #1 activities you should do in Kerala is to take a houseboat cruise, which is typically a morning or an afternoon activity. In the olden days, these boats were used to carry tons of rice and spices. Now all they carry are tourists. Another fun activity is to watch a demonstration of Kochi's most famous Chinese fishing nets, one of the most photographed and famous sites here. You can also enjoy a Kathakali dance performance. Its roots are traceable to the first millennium. Visit Kochi's historic Dobikana to observe an incredibly ancient trade run by the Vanar community. This group of 50 families provides laundry services to hospitals, households, hotels, and hostels. I know, it sounds strange to have me sending you to watch people wash clothes. Trust me on this one, it's really quite fascinating. To fully appreciate India, I highly recommend that you spend at least 4 or 5 days in the south. My next destination is really a bit of a digression from the popular places most people visit in India. And that destination is Chandigarh. Chandigarh is about 250 kilometers, almost directly north from Delhi. It sits at the foothills of the Himalayan mountains and honestly looks like it might have been designed from someone from outer space. You'll understand when you see pictures. Now, Chandigarh is one of the most successful planned cities in the world and was commissioned from scratch in 1950. It was built to fulfill the basic functions of working, living, and care of body and spirit. This people-oriented city is comprised of sweeping boulevards, lakes, gardens, grand civic buildings. To this day, the architecture and design are still considered to be one of the best in all of India and the world, as evidenced by the number of architectural students who visit this city every year. There are so many interesting places to visit while in Chandigarh, but I am going to focus the majority of my time on one specific place because it is so beautiful and has such an amazing story behind its initial creation. This is the Rock Garden of Chandigarh. Now, it's a sculpture garden for rock enthusiasts, but I'm telling you it's so much more. Nek Chand Saini was a governmental official who started the garden secretly as a hobby in 1957. It consists of man-made, interlinked waterfalls and is completely built from home and industrial waste he collected from demolition sites. Bottles, glass, sinks, tiles, broken pipes. It now has more than 2,000 sculptures created from this debris. It's now 40 acres. I'm telling you, this is beyond belief in beauty and expression and creativity and is a must-see. Now, to this day, Chandigarh is known for not deviating from its exacting architectural plans. So much so that if a tree dies, the city plants the exact same tree in the exact same spot, and I mean exact. I feel it is a city sadly overlooked that really should not be, especially considering how easy it is to access from Delhi. Alle has included a link in the description of this video to an article that explains the brilliance and design concept for this futuristic city. I'm going to turn it back over to Alle and let's see if I can get this snap transition thing down.
Hey, I'm back. Didn't Linda kill that snap transition? Taught her that one. Next up is Jaisalmer. Often referred to as the Golden City, this destination gives me all the Arabian Nights vibes. And that's because it is smack dab in the middle of the Thar Desert. Located in Rajasthan on the border of Pakistan, Jaisalmer was founded in the 12th century as a staging post for camel trains. Honestly, is that not the most epic factoid ever? This city has so much to offer, especially if you're looking for a desert experience, because one of the most popular things to do is ride through the desert on camelback, or simply cruise out to the dunes for a little sunset cocktail, which I have learned is called a sundowner. But one of the main draws, as with many destinations in India, is the Jaisalmer Fort. But what makes this one so unique is it's one of the few remaining living forts in the world, which means like people still live up in there. Doesn't it kind of look like one big sandcastle? The fort is home to a handful of hotels, restaurants, havelis, temples, shops, and of course, a palace. You can easily spend an entire day here, and I highly recommend having a guide show you around so you can really just understand the history and also have someone help you navigate the winding streets. Oh, and you must visit Jaisalmer Art Palace. Linda and I went crazy. We literally lost our minds shopping for furniture, tapestries, blankets, trinkets. Like, it was outrageous, but whew, man, it was totally worth it. We had to ship the stuff home. Yeah. We stayed at the Jaisalmer Marriott, which was lovely, and the staff couldn't have been more welcoming and kind. The rooms were very spacious, and they gave us these fancy hats, which I'm not entirely sure I was able to pull off, but it was very kind of them nonetheless. Staying in Rajasthan, we're going to head to Udaipur, the city of lakes. This is by far one of the most tranquil destinations I've visited in India, and for that reason, I always suggest ending your India adventure in this city. Located in the southern part of Rajasthan and about a 6-hour drive from Jaipur, but I highly recommend flying to cut down on travel time. Udaipur is full of forts, palaces, temples, gardens, and of course, lakes, hence the name. You'll most likely have heard of Lake Pichola, and a sunset boat ride on the lake is an absolute must. But do be aware, Udaipur is known for having these massive, like I'm talking this big, bats that really do enjoy catching their dinner around sunset time on the lake, so just do be aware. While you're here, I recommend visiting the City Palace, which has fantastic views of the Taj Lake Palace and is full of all these incredibly intricate rooms with glass and mirrors that sparkle when the light hits them. It's by far one of my favorite Indian palaces. Another absolutely essential stop is to visit Ganesh Handicraft Emporium. but I must warn you, your credit card is going to get a workout. This was absolutely my favorite place to shop in India and buy shoes, purses, pillow covers, and I almost bought this incredible colorful chair that I still have dreams about to this day. Maybe another time. Oh, and it was also another filming location for the Best Exotic Marigold Hotel movie. Without question, the Taj Lake Palace should be high on your list of where to stay in Udaipur. Built in 1746 as the Summer Palace, this magnificent white floating palace has been transformed into a heritage property with stunning courtyards, luxurious rooms, and mouth-wateringly delicious cuisine. Oh, and fun fact, the hotel was actually featured in the James Bond movie Octopussy, which I think is the most hilarious name ever. And this gorgeous room that we stayed at was also featured in the film, which we actually watched one night because the staff was like, how have you never seen this movie? We're going to bring it to you with popcorn, which was honestly such a fun and sweet touch. Another random but very important fact that I will share is this is the exact location where I had what I believe to be the world's best mango. I will never forget this moment or this mango because honestly I think I asked for 5 more of them after consuming the first. It was, wow, my mouth is watering just thinking about it. I wish they would just appear. Destination number 10 is Varanasi, and I have to say that if you are looking for a destination that gives you a real non-touristic look into India, this is where I would go. Located in the state of Uttar Pradesh, Varanasi is one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities in the world and is considered the holiest city for Hindus. Pilgrims come to this holy land to wash away sins in the sacred waters of the Ganges, to cremate their loved ones, or hire boats to watch priests perform the Arti, which is a Hindu worship ritual where devotees place thousands of floating lamps in the river in dedication to Lord Shiva. As a visitor, a trip to Varanasi can be a powerful experience, but it's not for the faint of heart, and an open mind is essential. One of the experiences many travelers have in this city is to observe the cremation ritual from a distance while you're floating along the river. At first, it's almost hard to wrap your mind around what you're seeing because it kind of feels like you're intruding on something that's very personal. However, I do have to say that understanding another culture's rituals is one of the most enlightening experiences a traveler can have, and I highly recommend hiring a local guide to explain and give you some context about the experience. Oh, and just one thing to note, out of respect, no photography or videography of the cremation is allowed. We stayed at this incredible heritage property called Bijrama Palace that was quite literally right on the Ganges. Now the hotel dates back to 1812 and is home to the first elevator in India. How cool is that? The hotel felt honestly less like a hotel and more like staying at some extremely wealthy person's home. The original artwork and antiques carefully placed throughout had me spellbound the entire stay. Oh, and in the evenings, guests are treated to these live classical music and dance performances, which are dizzyingly mesmerizing. Okay, who's ready and excited to visit India? I'm curious, after watching this video, are there maybe some destinations that you would recommend visiting in India? Or maybe has this video inspired you to add India to your travel bucket list? I hope that it has, and if it has, let me know in the comments. Ooh, and if you're ready to start planning a future trip to India, make sure that you check out my video on everything that you need to know before you go to India. Plus, I've got some super helpful guides with even more recommendations that I will link in the description below. And if you're like me and you like to have a travel advisor help you out with organizing and planning, be sure to check out my mom's agency, Scorby Travel and Cruise. I will drop their website in the description. And if you found this video helpful, make sure to give it a thumbs up or leave some love in the comments. And subscribe to make sure you do not miss next week's video where we will be traveling to Argentina. But if you cannot wait until then and you just need to consume all the travel content, why not check out these 2 videos right here? Until next time, guys, remember, stay safe, keep dreaming, and just know that adventure awaits all of us. Mwah!